Late at night, all is still in the Eastern Palace. A rustling sound can be heard in the kitchen and a figure opens a window to let fresh air in. Luo Ange surmises that his stomach cannot give his words justice. Avoiding Muki from infantilizing him, he excused himself telling the crown prince that he was full. Alas, it is midnight and he prowls the kitchen looking for food. His stomach growls while he thinks petulantly to himself that Muki will surely make fun of him when he finds out. Ange decides to rummage through the kitchen stores to look for some meat, but his brain keeps coming back to the intimate moment he shared with Muki. He shakes his head, chastising himself for thinking about that despicable crown prince. Hoping for some dried venison, Ange opens up the lid of a pot. From behind, he hears a rustling sound which makes him stand still. As he turns to see where the noise is coming from, a chill runs through his spine as he brings the pot lid up to his chest. Treating it like a shield, he asks the shadowed figure who it is. Startled, the figure drops the bun he's been munching on. When the figure turns around to face Ange, he introduces himself as Ji Xiang and tells him that he came to the kitchen for a late-night snack, still holding the pot lid. Ange seems familiar with the name but is unable to recall where he heard it. Ji Xiang tells him that he has not eaten anything as he was locked up as punishment for breaking a glazed vase when he was cleaning that morning. Ange places the lid on the table while calming his wildly beating heart. He tells Ji Xiang how scared he was at seeing another figure prowling the kitchen with him. Ji Xiang mistook him for a guard who missed his meals for making a mistake and offered him the bun that he'd been eating. The kind gesture surprises Ange, and he smiles at the kid kindly. Grabbing Ji Xiang by his wrist, he leads him towards the table where the good stuff is kept. He tells Ji Xiang that since they made the effort to come to the kitchen, then they should be rewarded with delicious food. He tells Ji Xiang that the cold, hard bun is not enough. Ji Xiang grabs his sleeves in fear of the kitchen supervisor finding out. He knows that the punishment will be harsh beatings. You poor kid. He just wants enough to fill his belly. Ange's stomach growls at the perfect moment as he sadly tells Ji Xiang that it has been 2 days since he last had any meat. Ji Xiang mistook his words for not having any food at all for the past 2 days and takes pity on this poor guard, who must have erred big time to warrant 2 days of no food as punishment. Using his newfound friend as a lookout, Ange continues to rummage through the pots until he lets out an exclamation of delight. Holding up 2 drumsticks of chicken, he offers one to Ji Xiang. The two found a secluded spot to enjoy their loot. Ji Xiang warns Ange to eat the chicken fast, otherwise they will be caught. Confidently, Ange tells him that nobody will come as everyone will be asleep after midnight. From outside the window, footsteps can be heard. When they took a peek, they found a battalion of guards bearing down on them. Ange jinxed it. The two panics, still holding onto their chicken. This will be the perfect time to say, "Freeze. Drop the chicken." Ji Xiang cries in misery, thinking that he finally met his end. He should not have listened to this random dude he met in the kitchen. Ange realizes that there's only one person who will notice his absence in the dead of night. Sure enough, a foot connects to the kitchen door, making it ring open with a bang. Ji Xiang quickly throws himself to the floor, begging for forgiveness. Muki enters the kitchen, his arms crossed in front of him. He calls Ange by his full name, complaining that Ange must be deliberately adding more work for him to do. Meanwhile, Ange munches on the chicken as he shakes in fear. Ange takes a precarious bite of the chicken as Muki towers over him, chastising him for causing trouble. Ange blushes as he hides the drumstick. "I think you already saw what's in your hands." He explains that he went to the kitchen to get some food, not knowing that it would cause too much trouble. Muki notices that Ange's lips are oily and asks him what he's hiding, knowing that Muki will laugh at him. Ange cannot bring himself to admit that he's hiding a piece of chicken behind him. Muki lets out a sigh and decides to let it go as long as Ange goes back to bed. He wipes Ange's mouth with a handkerchief. He tells Ange that he can ask the maids to get him something to eat if he gets hungry again. He also chastises him for wearing light clothes during the night. Muki threatens Ange that if he gets sick, he will be punished and not eat meat for at least 2 weeks. Ange reluctantly agreed with him. Finally, noticing the other guy prostrating on the floor, Muki asks how he is and why he's with Ange. Ji Xiang introduced himself and admitted that he too was hungry. Muki waves him off and tells the guards to punish Ji Xiang for breaking the rules. Ange comes to Ji Xiang's rescue and tells Muki that it was his idea to raid the kitchen and drag the poor kid along with him. Muki realizes what Ange is doing. Ange tells him that the kid is probably about 20 years of age, and he reminds him of his brother, Yanyu. Mu-Ki promises to let the matter go. He turns to Ji Xiang and tells him to thank the sub-director Luo Ange for his mercy. Ji Xiang kowtowed enthusiastically as he thanked Ange for his kindness. Ji Xiang watches the crown prince leave with Luo Ange. He realized that the rumors were true. The former monarch of Yunlei is being pampered by their crown prince. It's been a few days since the kitchen incident. While enjoying the afternoon snack with Luo Ange, Mu-Ki invites him to a family event. He entices Ange with the delicious food that will be served at the party. He also wanted Ange to meet some people. Ange hesitates as the attendees will be from the royal family of Yi. There's no reason for the former monarch of Yunlei to attend. Mu-Ki relents and tells Ange that he shall stay with him at the West Palace. He shall suffer through the mild food as long as Ange is with him. What a sweetheart. Having had enough of the mild food, Ange agrees to come to the party to Mu-Ki's delight. At the banquet, Ange realizes that while he puts more food on Ange's plate, he tells him that Mu-Ching and Ange will get along nicely as his third brother is the straightforward type. He then points towards the person behind him, who is Mu-Chi, the second son. He tells Ange to be wary of him as Mu-Chi is the ambitious type. Ange feels a chill down his spine as he feels Mu-Chi watching him. He decides to stay away from Mu-Chi as the man appears to be hostile to him. A woman clad in rich robes enters the banquet. She presents herself in front of the throne and introduces herself as Wang Rong. She apologizes profusely to the Empress and Emperor of Yi country for being late. Her carriage broke down on the way, making her late. The Empress waves off her apologies and tells her to take her seat. The Empress offers the seat next to Mu-Ki, as the two have been childhood friends. Blushing, Wang Rong sees this chance to get close to Mu-Ki and daintily walks over to him. Ange can see the swooning spark in her eyes, and he realizes who the woman is. Wang Rong pays her respects to the crown prince and introduces herself. Mu-Ki does not pay her any attention and continues to put food on Ange's plate. The Empress decides to interfere and introduces Wang Rong as the second daughter of the imperial astronomer, Xiao. Hoping that Wang Rong can catch the attention of the crown prince, she tells him of her virtues and expresses her worry that Mu-Ki no longer recognizes her now that she has grown into a beautiful. He realizes that this woman is the one that the Empress has chosen for Mu-Ki to be his crown princess. Ange's heart sinks knowing that there will be a need for Mu-Ki to take in many women in the future as he is crown prince. Mu-Ki assures him by holding his hand. He tells Wang Rong that it won't be appropriate for her to sit on their side as it is for men only. She tells Wang Rong to join the side of the princesses. Embarrassed, Wang Rong looks to the Empress for help. The Empress quickly chastises Mu-Ki for being rude. Mu-Ki answers that it will ruin Wang Rong's reputation if she sits beside so many men. Unable to argue, the Empress can only scowl at him, a sight that the second prince finds amusing. Ange tells Mu-Ki that Wang Rong probably wants to sit with them as she admires Mu-Ki. Ange tells Mu-Ki to be nicer to Wang Rong and to not argue with the Empress. Ange knows that Mu-Ki should take care of his image and he should not sow any disputes with the Empress, otherwise his enemy will use it to discredit Mu-Ki. The lives of royalty are full of betrayal and deceit. Ange cannot be the reason for any misunderstanding between the Empress and Mu-Ki. Mu-Ki turns to Ange asking him if he wants Wang Rong to sit with them. Ange clenched his fist, thinking that there was no way that he'd want a woman to sit with Mu-Ki. Mu-Ki whispers in his ears that his heart must be made of stone. The fourth prince stands up to smooth things over. He teases the Empress for being partial to Mu-Ki. She tells her that Wang Rong is clearly more of his age and should sit beside him instead of his older brother. So, the fourth prince is not so bad. The Empress sighs and chastises the fourth prince for being jealous. She tells Wang Rong to sit beside the other guests. The Empress looks in Mu-Ki's direction. Seeing how close her son is to the former monarch of Yunlei, she concludes that the rumors about her son's preference may be true. She decides to take matters into her own hands. After the banquet, Mu-Ki drags Ange to a private room in the West Palace, his face clouded with anger. Pushing Ange to a chair, Mu-Ki leans over him and asks what Ange meant to do at the party. In response, Ange asks him why Mu-Ki is so angry when he only wants to stop any quarrel between Mu-Ki and the Empress. Mu-Ki wanted to know if he only said that to prevent any argument between him and the Empress or if Ange wanted to use Wang Rong as an excuse to leave Mu-Ki. Ange denies the accusation. Mu-Ki grabs his chin and tells him to not even think about leaving Mu-Ki. Knowing what's coming next, he tells Mu-Ki to let go of him. But his struggle is not as eager as it used to be. Behind the curtains, he allows Mu-Ki to claim his lips. Ange sits in the reading room, practicing his calligraphy. as if having a life of their own. His brushstrokes spell the first syllable of the crown prince's name. Ange crumples the paper in his hands and throws it to the floor. Ange does not understand why Muki would suddenly get angry at the banquet. He got mad cause he thought you wanted to push him off towards Wang Rong. You enters the study with him with Ji Xian following behind. You ask if Ange has gotten tired of calligraphy and would rather take a walk in the garden. Ange assures him that he wants to stay where he is. Turning to them, Ange notices that the one behind you is Ji Xian and asks what he is doing with you. Ji Xian thanks him for his help when they were caught in the kitchen and explains that the crown prince chose him to serve Ange. Ange realizes that Muki is just being thoughtful and knows that Ange likes the kid. Ji Xiang tells him that the crown prince instructed him to take care of Ange. As Ange's health has almost recovered, his job includes reminding Ange to change his clothes so that Muki can take him outside. Muki will take Ange hunting to give him some fresh air. Ange complains that Muki can go on his own and Ange does not need to come. Ji Xiang cries pitifully, telling Ange that he will be punished if Ange does not go. Having no choice, Ange decides to go and change his clothes, resenting that Muki is yet again using other people to control him. In the main palace, Muki lets out a sneeze in front of the emperor. Worried for his son's health, the emperor asks if he is well. Muki thanks him for his care and assures him that he is well. Muki smirks as he thinks to himself that Ange must be stomping his feet while cursing Muki in his head. He assures himself that Ange's mood will lighten after their trip to the hunting grounds. He'd be fine as long as you and her siblings don't hunt Yunla people for fun. At the hunting ground, Muki helps Ange kick down the carriage. From a distance, Ange sees Wang Rong looking at them. Ange realizes why the empress chose Wang Rong to marry the crown prince. She is, after all, beautiful and elegant. Ange reaches out his hand to Muki. When their eyes meet, he tells him that he does not need help as he is not a lady. Muki pulls him towards him and remarks that if Ange were a lady, things would have been easier for him. He tells Ange that only Ange can order him around. Wang Rong sees the two being lovey-dovey and becomes envious. She thinks that Ange, who is a mere prisoner of war, is deliberately fighting with her. She approaches the two, explaining that the empress sent her to greet the crown prince and to escort them to the hunting ground. Muki turns to her and declines her help. He looks toward Ange to see his reaction and becomes extremely disappointed when he sees Ange looking the other way. Thinking that Ange does not seem to care, he accepts Wang Rong's invitation to walk together to their camp. Wang Rong enthusiastically walks beside him. Seeing that the two are having a cordial conversation, Ange pulls his hand away from Muki's and walks in another direction. Looks like someone is jealous and having an issy fit. He tells them that he won't be joining their walk. He has not practiced his archery skills for a long time and is eager to hold a bow once more. Muki resents his attitude and calls towards the former monarch. Ange kept walking, not looking back. Ange mounts a horse, bow, and arrows on his back. He wonders what set him off. He was rude to Wang Rong for no apparent reason. He sees the empress on a horse heading in his direction. Ange thinks that it is better if he stays out of the empress's sight for now, as he knows that she does not like him. When he pulls the horse's rein to turn back, he hears a scream. When he looks, he sees a wild boar charging towards the empress. Ange quickly charges his horse forward and pulls out his bow. With steady hands, he points his arrow towards the boar. Sensing danger, the boar sees him, his eyes blazing red, as if possessed by the devil. Wang Rong happily walks with the man of his dreams. She asks the crown prince if he could teach her how to ride a horse, as her horse riding skill is not very good. Muki flat out tells her that he can't teach her. Emotional damage. Undeterred, she walks up closer to the crown prince and tells him that the empress wanted them to interact more and that he should be nicer to her. Before Muki can answer, they hear someone scream Ange's name. Muki immediately rushes toward the scream, leaving Wang Rong alone behind. When he breaks through the shrubs, he sees a boar charging towards Ange. Ange points the bow towards the raging boar. A calm feeling overcomes Ange. He lets go of the quiver and it flies straight to the wild boar, piercing his heart. Ange towers over the boar, a vision that can only be described as regal. Muki is frozen on the spot. This image gives him hope. Hope that Ange is the same person he fell in love with years ago. Later that day, Muki and Ange go over to the queen's tent. Muki asks Ange if he's alright. Ange answers that he's okay, but the queen must be scared. A eunuch comes out of the tent, announcing that the empress wants to see Ange. She asks Anga to follow him inside. Muki does not like the idea of Anga being alone with his mother. He asks the eunuch what his mother wants from Anga. The eunuch carefully answers that the empress naturally wanted to thank Anga for saving her life. He assures the crown prince that nothing will happen with Anga. Muki finds it suspicious that the empress does not want his presence in the tent with Anga. He can only watch as Anga enters his mother's tent. The empress lies on her side when Anga stops inside. She sits up to greet him properly and thanks him for saving her. She graciously asks him if there is anything he wants and assures him that she will do her best to make it happen. Anga bows to her respectfully and tells her that his only wish is to have the taxes reduced for the citizens of Yunmo so that they can live comfortably. The empress tells him that Muki has already made the proposal to the emperor and the emperor already granted it. She tells Anga to ask something for himself. At a loss, Anga cannot think of anything he wants for himself and thinks about the crown prince. Anga tells her that apart from Yunli's prosperity, he has no other wish. The empress finally decides on a more direct approach and asks him if he wants to return to Yunli. She assures him that she can play his case to the emperor. Anga tells her that he promised the crown prince that he would stay by his side. Anga does not intend to break his promise. The empress thinks that Muki is not the only one who's stubborn, and it makes her worry. Anga excuses himself and bids his farewell. The empress tries to keep him for a while longer. She asks him to encourage the crown prince to take on many concubines. As crown prince, it won't be good for rumors to surround him. She asks Anga to help her advise the crown prince. This request is too hard for Anga to fulfill, but the empress keeps pushing, wanting the best for her son. Anga tells himself that this is to be expected. As crown prince, Muki has to take in as many concubines to continue his lineage and produce future heirs to the throne. He can't continue playing around with a male lover. As appointed subdirector of the Eastern Palace, it is Anga's duty to give his counsel to Muki and show him the right way. The answer is obvious, but Anga cannot bring himself to agree to the empress's request. Realizing what he wants, Anga looks at the empress, telling her that it is not his place to meddle with the crown prince's personal affairs. He declines the empress's request, making her mad at him. Anga excuses himself a final time and leaves the test. Anga decides to be selfish. He does not want Muki to have concubines. Watching him leave, the empress decides that for her son's future, she can't allow the two to be together. No, don't be the evil queen. While Anga is talking to the empress, Wang Rong approaches the crown prince and asks him if he's been waiting for Anga. Muki decided to be forward with her. He tells her to not waste her time on him. She is beautiful and came from a good family. Many men will surely want to marry her. Wang Rong does not want to give up yet. She cannot fathom how two men can be together. She believes that with time, the crown prince will look at her with love. Changing tactics, Wang Rong tells Muki that she is envious of Anga who does not realize the wonderful gift presented to him. Interested, Muki turns to her, wanting to know what she has in mind. Wang Rong sees Anga exit the tent. She smiles knowing that she can turn this to her favor. She stares up at the crown prince, happily basking in his full attention. She tells Muki that he's been treating Anga so well that Anga must have feelings for him. However, he must be wary of the gap between their status. She draws closer to the crown prince, making them look like a couple having a good time. Anga sees them together, and jealousy creeps in his heart. He realizes that the empress has nothing to worry about. Muki and Wang Rong were childhood friends and will find their way to each other even without interference. Turning away from them, he walks behind the tent. Muki turns to Wang Rong, curious about what she plans to do. Wang Rong proposes to play the act of a happy couple to make Anga jealous. Doing so will make Anga realize that he is in love with Muki. Despite her innocent face, Wang Rong plans to make Muki fall in love with her by pretending to be his friend. Muki thanks her for caring and for coming up with a plan to make Anga fall in love with him. She happily tells him that she'll be honored to help. A eunuch approaches them to deliver Anga's words. He wants Muki to know that he has already left. Muki's face contorted in anger, annoyed that Anga left without him. Anga stares out one of the windows of the East Palace, watching the leaves fall off the trees and be blown by the wind. Muki barges in calling his name, menacingly. He walks towards Anga asking him why he went home without Muki. He's annoyed that he waited for Anga to come out of the tent, only to find out that he already left. Yeah, not cool. Anga tells him that since there is a beautiful woman besides Muki, he decided not to interrupt them, realizing that Anga must be jealous. Muki smiles giddily. He raises Anga's chin, his face getting closer to Anga's, and asks him if he is jealous. Teasing Anga, Muki leans closer, making Anga blush. Anga pushes him off, telling him that he's talking nonsense. He screams at Muki that there's no way that he is jealous. Your tantrum makes it obvious. Try to conceal it better. Muki pushes some more and asks Anga why he left when he saw Muki standing close to Wang Rong. Anga answers that he was just tired and wanted to go home. Muki does not believe him, his lips curving in a smile as he watches Anga blush. Muki touches Anga's face and places his forehead on Anga's, happy to know that Anga has feelings for him. He pulls him into a hug. Meanwhile, a maid peeks at them from the door and discreetly closes the door. Who sent this maid? My guess is on the Empress. Muki asks Anga how hard it is to admit that he has feelings for Muki. Anga denies this, but Muki insists that Anga is jealous. He correctly deduced that Anga left in anger after seeing him talking with Wang Rong. Fed up with Muki's teasing, Anga grits his teeth and bites Muki. What? That came out of the blue. Nice response, though. That's one of the first things you teach a kindergartner. Don't bite at people who annoy you. Instead of pushing Anga off, Muki savors the feeling of Anga's teeth on him. He tells Anga that he is free to vent his jealousy in whichever way he wants. But he does not leave him like he did today. Anga petulantly agrees. Anga's so funny. He's like a kid. The two walk to the garden. Muki tells Anga that he wants to spend the following days with Anga as he does not need to go to court. He asks Anga if he will act up again and bite him. Anga tells him that he is not at all angry. People who are not angry do not bite. From behind Anga, a woman walks closer to the pagoda where the two are lounging. Muki agrees with him in a patronizing tone, teasing him that it is Muki who wants to be with him. He openly admits that he wants to be with Anga. Anga puffs up his cheek and turns away from him. Their sweet teasing is interrupted by Wang Rong greeting the crown prince. Annoyed, Muki asks her why she's in his palace. Dumbfounded, she asks if Muki forgot what they discussed that day. She tells him that she came to help Muki out. Wang Rong looks at Anga and realizes that it will be hard to defeat Anga. Muki grabs Anga's hand while telling Wang Rong that she must have misunderstood. She tells her to stop visiting the Eastern Palace before her honor gets sullied. She tries to stop him, but he orders the guards to escort her out. Not willing to give up yet, she runs to the crown prince, insisting that they made a plan. Muki pushes her off him, telling her to get out. She stumbles back and trips, her eyes widen in horror as she falls into the cold pond. She screams as she plunges into the water. Trying to keep herself floating, she waves her hands in the water, coughing up water. She tells the crown prince that she cannot swim. Unbothered, Muki orders the guard to rescue Wang Rong. With her clothes wet and disheveled, she coughs up the pond water she accidentally drank. The guard apologizes for desecrating her in his haste to save her life. It's either you desecrate her or you let her die. By desecrating, he meant he had to touch her or hug her to save her. Muki does not want Anga to see the alluring sight of a woman with her wet clothes clinging to her body. He covers Anga's eyes from the lewd sight. At least, it's the ancient Chinese standard of lewd. Anga insisted that he did not look. Wang Rong looks at Muki betrayed. She is not yet engaged in rumors of her coming out of the East Palace in such a state will ruin her. Claiming that she has lost her innocence, she cries as she laments that she will not be able to marry. Poor girl. She did come to get the prince to fall in love with her, but she did not intend things to go this far. Or did she? Muki contemplates how to resolve this. He admits that it is he who stained her honor by accident. She bows to him, admitting that she was careless. All she wants is a title to not shame her family. She wants to be a concubine or a crown princess. Muki comes up with a solution. To preserve her honor, he shall promote Yan Cheng, the guard who saved her, to the position of Sword King's Guard and will plead with the emperor to grant them the gift of marriage. Poor girl. It will be a cute story if she falls in love with Yan Cheng. Not believing his luck, Yan Cheng prostrates in front of the prince and thanks him. Wang Rong cannot believe what she is hearing. She expected that the crown prince would be pressured to make her a concubine. She grits her teeth in anger. After thanking the crown prince, she promises to not bother them again. Muki turns to Anga and asks him if his jealousy is eased. Anga insisted that what happened had nothing to do with him, therefore, there's no reason to assure him. Muki is astonished at Anga's insistence on denying his jealousy. Hugging Anga close to him, he tells him that the emperor sent him on a business trip the next day. He can't take Anga with him and asks that Anga stay away from trouble while he's gone. He also asks Anga to not miss him too much. Ange tells him that there's no way he'd miss him, but his words do not match his body language. He hugs Muki close to him as he secretly laments how much he would miss him. In the main palace, a eunuch reports to the Empress. She shouts incredulously at hearing what transpired in the Eastern Palace. She can't believe that her son rejected Wang Rong and made her fall into the pond, desecrating her honor. She realized that as long as Ange stayed with Muki, Muki would never take in any concubines. Drastic actions need to be made. She orders the eunuch to call the imperial Dr. Xian so she can ask him a favor. The eunuch is quick to do her bidding. 3 days have passed and Muki has not returned. Ange is bored out of his mind as all he can do to pass the time is calligraphy. His mind strays back to his last interaction with Muki, which he tries to erase from his mind. There's no way that he would miss Muki. A eunuch comes to the study and invites him to meet the Empress. Ange raises his guard up and thinks that she must have called for him to get Muki to take in concubines. Ji Xiang watches Ange leave with the eunuch. Judging by the eunuch's cold voice and the time of the summon, he decides that he must protect Ange. When he follows Ange, the eunuch stops him, telling him that the Empress wants to see Ange alone. Ange assures Ji Xiang that he will be fine. Ji Xiang pouts, but there's nothing he can do but obey. Watching Ange go, Ji Xiang wonders why the Empress called for Ange at a time when the Crown Prince was not home. From out of nowhere, another eunuch enters the Eastern Palace, his face contorted with panic. This eunuch's name is Ji Li, who was supposed to be working with the Crown Prince. Ji Li tells him that he must find the Crown Prince right away, whispering to Ji Xiang what the Empress intends to do. Upon hearing what's going on, Ji Xiang panics. His face pales in shock. Ange is unceremoniously pushed towards the doors of Ji Yaofang Palace. A eunuch chastises him incredulously for not showing the proper respect. He got pushed, didn't you see? The Empress waves off the disrespect, stating that Ange was her savior, and he does not need to show proper decorum. Ange asks why the Empress called for him. She glances at the eunuch, prompting him to present a wooden pass to Ange. She opens the conversation by pointing out that Ange is not an official citizen. Therefore, Muki has no right to keep him in the palace. She grants him the option to leave Yi country. Ange looks at the token in his hands. This token will allow him to pass through the gates without trouble. She will be the one to tell Muki about Ange's departure and will not tell him that Ange went to Yunlei. Muki will surely try to find Ange in Yunlei. Ange looks at the token in his hands, thinking how once was ready to give anything just to get hold of these tokens. He can't believe that the token was handled to him just like that. Before, he wanted to leave for Yunlei, but now he does not know. She thanks the Empress for her kindness. Ange realizes that he no longer wants the token. He bows to the Empress, telling her that he plans to uphold his promise to Muki that he would never leave without telling him. He hands over the token, intending to return it permanently. The Empress stands up abruptly, resulting in the side table toppling over. She is at the end of her patience, and now she is forced to resort to a more drastic approach. She calls the guards to restrain Ange. Ange asks her what she plans to do. The Empress expresses her gratefulness for saving her life. However, he can't allow her son's reputation to go into ruins. She knows that as long as Ange is around, Nuke will never let him go. She takes out a vial from a velvet box and tells Ange what it is. It is He Ding Hong, which is a poison. Once Ange drinks it, he shall leave the world of the living within 3 hours. She apologizes for being the villain to end his life. She passes the vial of poison to a eunuch and orders to give it to Ange. Ange tries to escape, bemoaning the fact that the Empress does not have the guts to poison him herself. He coughs as the poison enters his throat. The Empress denies that she sentenced him to death. She will make it appear that Ange decided to end his own life. She will make it appear that he wrote a goodbye letter before drinking the poison. She tells him that she is doing this for Muki's sake. If Muki continues to postpone his marriage, rumors will spread about him and may impede his chance to be emperor. Should Muki fight with her, then Muki will have no one else on his side. She tells Ange that if he really cares for his son, then he would know the best course of action. What action? You just ended him. Ange sways on his knees, his eyes blurring. As he succumbs to the effects of the poison, his last thoughts are of Muki's reaction when he returns and finds that Ange is not there. Muki will be mad. A coffin passes through the peace gate. The eunuchs try to make haste as they pass by the crown prince. Muki tries to come home as fast as he can. In his haste, he pants as he sprints back home. A sinking feeling overcomes him as he passes by a group of eunuchs carrying a coffin. He stops the eunuch in their tracks. They went down on their knees and greeted him. Muki asks whose coffin it is. The eunuch's eyes shifted between him and the coffin. Muki does not have time for his stammering and orders them to open the coffin. The eunuch tries to dissuade him, reasoning that they cannot allow Muki to get dirty. Muki tells him to shut up. He pushes the coffin lid. Light enters the coffin, revealing that the corpse inside wears a lavender robe. When the lid is completely open, lying in a bed of flowers is Luo Ange, the former monarch of Yunla and Muki's beloved. Muki stands frozen in shock. With trembling hands, he reaches for his beloved, touching his face. The pale, beautiful face looks as if it is only sleeping. He calls out to him, but no matter how many times he tries to wake him, Luo Ange does not wake up. Ji Xiang approaches him with worry, wondering why the crown prince stopped to check out a coffin. Looking at what's inside the coffin, his heart sank at the sight of Luo Ange's lifeless body. Ji Xiang's knees weaken and he cries in sorrow at the loss of his wonderful master. Muki looks at him indifferently, asking him why he's crying. Ji Xiang believes that it is his fault that Ange is dead. Had he known sooner, then Ange would not have met his untimely fate. Muki asks him why he would say that Ange is dead. Ah, there's his corpse in front of you. Ji Xiang looks at the crown prince dumbly, wondering what he means. Muki tells him that Ange's body is still warm and thinks that Ange is just pretending to die to trick him. He lifts up Ange's body in his arms. One of the eunuchs tries to stop him. He explains that Luo Ange died by self-poisoning not too long ago, which is why the body is still warm. He begs the crown prince to not cause them trouble. Muki does not want to listen to his nonsense and kicks him. He tells the eunuch offer implying that Luo Ange is dead, with a threat to bury all the eunuchs carrying the coffin. The crown prince leaves with Luo Ange's body cradled in his arms, intent on bringing him home. Muki takes Ange to his bedroom and tucks him into bed. He watches the prone body on the bed, intending to wait until his beloved wakes up. Meanwhile, Luo Ange gains consciousness. However, his body cannot move. His head throbs but is unable to voice his complaints. He wonders why he's still alive. He can feel his surroundings and hear the people around him. He can hear someone calling him sweetly by his pet name, telling him to continue resting. He hears a voice promising to take him outside to visit the theater when he wakes. He realizes that it is Muki. There must be others in the room. He hears you telling the crown prince that Ange has passed and that Muki should not grieve too much. A maid chimed in, advising that Muki could not bring back the dead, and tearfully begs him to bury Ange so he can rest in peace. Muki does not listen to them, believing that Ange somehow came up with this convoluted plan of pretending to be dead to punish Muki for leaving him alone in the palace. He thinks that Ange is only being petty and will wake up soon. Ange thinks that Muki is delusional and does not believe that he is dead, but the fact remains that he is still alive. Ange wonders what's going on. He thinks back to the day the Empress gave him the poison. The Empress told him that he would thank her. He deduced that the Empress probably did not intend to kill him, and just wanted him to be dead for a while so that Muki would give up on him. He realized that the Empress miscalculated for not thinking that Muki wouldn't let him go even after death. Ange decides that he needs to wake up before Muki does something foolish. Ange reflects on when he started to care about Muki. He now realizes how deeply Muki's feelings run. After caressing Ange's face, Muki tucks him to bed, ignoring the pleas of his servants. He tells Ji Xiang to prepare Ange's usual medicinal bowl, thinking that Ange will wake up after drinking it. Ji Xiang can look at him dumbly, not knowing what to do. The door violently opens, and a scream is heard in the Eastern Palace, asking the crown prince when he'll stop being delusional and insisting that Luo Ange has passed away. Muki did not even spare the visitor a glance and ordered Ji Xiang to escort the visitor out. Ji Xiang cannot obey as the visitor is Empress, Muki's very own mother. She can't believe that Muki would turn his back against her all for some boy. She shakes in anger and asks Muki if he thinks that she is the cause of Ange's death. She fabricates a story and tells Muki that Ange begged for death when she asked him what he wanted as a reward for saving her life. She hands him the goodbye letter she alleges that Ange wrote, insisting that Ange did not want to stay in the palace, but Muki has been forcing him to stay. Muki cannot believe what he's hearing. He takes the goodbye letter in his hands. Ange hears them and wants to shout at Muki to tell him that they are all lies. Ange wants to tell him that all he wants is for Muki to be successful and to stop quarreling with his mother. When Muki reads the letter, a tidal wave of regret clashes through him. He realizes that Ange wants to run away from him. It was he who caused this. Muki concludes that Ange hated him so much that he'd rather end his life than be with him. This is probably Ange's way of punishing him. The words "leave a long life" seem to mock him. Ange cruelly wants him to live long so that he can suffer for the rest of his life and wallow in regret. Behind him, Ange wants to comfort him and tell him that he never thought of getting back at Muki. All he wants is for Muki to live a wonderful life. Ange resolves that he must wake up and comfort Muki. The Empress seems to regret her decision to see her son sad, but she must harden her heart and push through with the plan. She needs to find a way to get Luo Ange's body out of Yi City. Otherwise, all she did will be for naught. The Empress asks Muki if he will continue to keep Ange in the palace now that he knows that Ange hates him. She begs Muki to let Ange go so that his soul can be laid to rest. Muki needs more time to process all this and asks his mother to give him more time. There are things he needs to tell Ange before he parts with him forever. The Empress calculated the time on how long the poison will take effect. She still has time as the potion will keep Luo Ange in a state of coma for 3 days. If she continues to pressure Muki, her son may become suspicious. With a sigh, the Empress allows Muki to have his time with Ange. Taking her leave, the Empress tells the other servant to join her outside. Once he is alone with Ange, Muki confesses that the first time he met Ange was not in the Great Hall of Yunle. Holding Ange's lifeless hands, he bares his heart to him. He tells Ange that they met 3 years ago. Ange thinks hard about the timeline and remembers that he did not leave Yunle that year. Muki continues with his story. When he was 19 years old, he went to Yunle in disguise with only a few guards to travel with him. In a twist of fate, he met Ange, who was also in disguise. Ange sneaked out of the palace. 3 years ago, Muki introduced himself to Ange as Mo Ran, a mere fabric merchant, and asked Ange who he was. Ange introduced himself as Luo Xiao, a student who came to the capital to take the exam. Muki was able to see through him. Ange is not so smart. Muki deduced that the other was lying. The surname Luo is the reigning family in Yunle. Coupled with his rich robes and age, Muki can easily tell that this is the Emperor of Yunle. He was amused that the Emperor was not a great liar. Muki made friends with Ange and eagerly tried to spend more time with him. Ange enthusiastically grabs his hands, agreeing to travel together. They spend time traveling, even staying in the same inn. That night, he discovered something about Ange. The rain pours down hard on the inn they're staying in. The rumbling thunder echoes in the halls of the inn. Muki was about to get ready for bed when he heard a knock on the door. When he opens the door, he sees Luo Ange hugging a pillow to himself. Ange asked to stay with him that night as the thunder frightened him. He discovered that Ange is such a scaredy cat. Muki finds this side of him adorable and he blushes. He allows Ange to sleep in the same room with him to Ange's delight, and that's when it started. When they parted ways, they confessed their feelings for each other and even exchanged love tokens. Muki gave Ange the dice, promising to come back to Yunle to see Ange once more. Ange can't believe it. It appears that he has a shared past with Muki, but he is unable to remember any of the events that Muki described. When Muki returns to Yunle, Ange no longer remembers him. He was heartbroken and angry. He thought that Ange was just playing with him and did not want anything to do with him. It upsets him that Ange forgot about him so easily. Ange finally understands why Muki acted strange when they met at the Great Hall of Yunle. Ange blames him for forgetting about Muki. Muki continues with his story. When he took Ange back to his country, he treated Ange poorly out of anger and wanted to take his revenge. He later realized that there was a reason why Ange forgot about him. When he started to treat Ange better, the seed of hatred had been sowed. There's a reason why communication is key. If you had told him about it before, then you could have avoided all this. Muki regrets it as it is now too late. Now that Ange is gone, he missed his chance and he worries that Ange would probably hate him even in the afterlife. Tears stream down on Muki's face. This is the first time he cried since he discovered Ange's body in the coffin. Ange wanted to scream that he does not hate him. He wants Muki to wait for him to wake up so that they can start over. Ange wants to promise him that he will never forget Muki again. Muki admits to using Ange's country and friends as tools to threaten Ange, but he really does not want to follow through with the threats. He gave Ange whatever he asked for. Watching Ange's lifeless face, he finally makes a decision. He carries Ange in his arms. It is time to set Ange free. Ange no longer has to see his tormentor whenever he wakes. Ange wants to tell him that he never hated Muki and beg him to wait a bit more. He will soon wake up and hope that he does before Muki does anything foolish. A funeral is held to send off Ange properly. White garlands adorn the place, and he lays Ange on a bed of blue flowers in the coffin. A eunuch tells him that it is time to bid his final farewell. The coffin should be sealed. Reluctantly, Muki allows them. Ange tries to scream at them to not close the coffin. This is nightmare-inducing. I hope I don't get nightmares about being trapped in a coffin after reading this. Unable to move or speak, Ange is at a loss on how to tell them that he's not dead. The coffin lid closes and Muki touches the coffin one last time. He instructs the eunuchs and guards to send Ange's body back to Yunla and bury him with the honors befitting a former monarch. Ange can't give up yet. It cannot end like this. He does not want to go back to Yunla in a coffin. Forcing the poison out of his system with his sheer willpower, he coughs up blood. Muki has a lot of explaining to do, and he must wake up to hear them. When the guards lift up the coffin, a sound can be heard. The coffin lid seems to creak open a bit. Muki is alerted to the sound. I hope he does not ignore it. Up next, Zombie Apocalypse, the beginning. It starts as a soft creak, which evolves to loud banging. There is no doubt that the sound is coming from inside the coffin. Those who carry the coffin can feel the wood vibrate with each banging noise. In their fear, they drop the coffin to the ground, distancing themselves from the start of a zombie apocalypse. Muki runs towards the coffin, his grieving heart still hopeful. And the first victim walks up to the coffin. The others flee for their lives. When Muki opens the coffin, he finds Ange resting peacefully, but a string of blood flows down from his mouth to his chin. Ange opens his eyes. It's alive. Run. Muki can't believe it. He reaches his hands to Ange and hugs him, relieved that he's back in his life. Then Ange bites him and turns him into a zombie. Everybody becomes a zombie. The end? Just kidding. Muki does not care. He's just happy that Ange is back in his arms. Ange cries, calling him stupid. Muki admits that he was indeed foolish, which made Ange hate him. He thinks that Ange must have been so resentful that he came back as a devil to haunt him. Even if Ange has turned into a devil, Muki would happily take him back. He'd let Ange haunt him for the rest of his life. Ange realized that Muki's being stupid. Muki thinks he really died and has become a ghost. He pushes Muki off of him to shake him out of his stupid thoughts and bring him back to reality. He tells Muki to have a good look at Ange, and he insists that he is alive. Ange realized that Muki looked disheveled and haggard. He asks him why he let himself look like this. Muki teases him that had he known that Ange would come back from the dead to haunt him, he would have made himself look dashing. Ange lifts himself up with his tiptoes and kisses Muki. The kiss feels like a new dawn for them, a new beginning. Ange places his forehead on Muki's and asks him if he finally believes that Ange is really alive. Muki needs further proof of Ange's life. He pinches Ange's cheek, stretching it to the limit. To Muki, everything feels surreal. There's no way that the real Ange would ever kiss him. Even if Ange turns into a devil, he would never kiss Muki. With his cheeks sore, Ange looks at Muki in frustration. The stress has finally taken its toll on the crown prince. Muki drops to the ground, unconscious. Ange scrambles to help Muki, but he too feels a severe headache, consuming him, making him drop to his knees. The eunuchs enter the room. Panics overcome them at seeing the once dead Ange looming over their crown prince. Ange tries to call them for help, but they step back out of fear. In their eyes, Ange has turned into a devil who came back from the dead to take their souls. Up next, the devil takes the poor eunuchs' souls. The eunuchs ran for their lives, screaming devil cannibal. With the voice of a monarch, Ange orders them to stop. He finally got through to one of them, who turned around to ask him if he was indeed the sub-director. Ange lifts up Muki to a sitting position and asks them how they could compare him to a devil. He coaxes the eunuchs to come closer to give him a hand. Eunuchs, don't do it. This is how the clown from the movie It gets his victims. The eunuchs observe him more closely. One of them noticed that Ange still has a shadow, which means that he's human. Relieved that the devil was not after their souls, they stop running and hesitantly walk closer. Ange orders them to call the imperial physician to attend to Muki. He then orders the remaining eunuchs to help him get Muki to bed. The eunuchs finally move to action, carrying Muki with them. One of the eunuchs assisted Ange so he could stand. Another eunuch explains that Muki is suffering from dehydration. He has not drank any water since returning to the palace with the dead Ange. Ange orders them to make a bowl of soup for the crown prince to restore his health. In the crown prince's bedroom, Muki opens his eyes. Someone exclaims happily that he finally woke up. Thinking that it is Ange, Muki is disappointed to see a eunuch attending to him. He smiles humorlessly to himself, thinking that it was all a dream, something that his grieving heart has come up with to delude him further. The eunuch explains that the imperial doctor has examined him and concluded that he passed out due to grief and hunger. He further explains that the subdirector ordered the eunuch to prepare a bowl of soup for Muki. Hope floods Muki's heart, and he turns to the eunuch to repeat himself. The eunuch repeats that the subdirector and the imperial physician wanted Muki to rest. Ange enters the room planning how to approach Muki when he wakes. Time seems to stand still as the two look into each other's eyes. It's like seeing each other again for the first time. Muki asks if he's dreaming. The eunuch enthusiastically tells him that it is not at all a dream. The subdirector returned from the dead. Unconvinced, Muki tells Ange to come closer. Feeling the warmth in Ange's hand, he finally believes that Ange is alive. He asks how it happened but stops himself. His brilliant mind suspects that Ange and his mother made an elaborate plan to fake Ange's death so that he could escape without Muki running after him. Ange denies the accusation. He tells Muki that he did not know about the Empress's plans. Muki does not care. He hugs Ange tightly, telling him that they can lay the past to rest. He does not intend to investigate it further. As long as Ange is beside him, nothing else matters. This is not enough for Ange. He pinches Muki's cheek to get him to listen to him. Muki has a habit of not listening. Infuriated, Ange tells him that he had no idea that the poison would put him in a state of coma. When he refused the Empress's offer to let him leave, the Empress got upset as she did not want Ange around Muki. Muki smiles at what he hears. He asks Ange if he truly wants to stay with him even at the cost of his life. Ange defiantly explains that he just wanted to be a person who honors his words, and his decision has nothing to do with Muki. Muki touches Ange's face to tell him how happy he is. His face is very close to his beloved's, and he kisses him behind the curtains. Ange sheds a tear, knowing how happy he is at this moment. The two lay on the bed, hugging each other tightly. Ange chastises Muki for acting perverted when he has not eaten anything for the past 2 days. He must have a death wish. Muki explains that he can't pass up the chance to indulge when it is the first time that Ange has taken the initiative. He wonders if Ange finally understands how he feels. Ange turns away from him, unable to take his teasing. He tells Muki that he fears that Muki will be the first crown prince in the history of Yi country to die of malnutrition. Ange brings up his experience while he was in a coma. He tells Muki that he heard him talking about their shared past and that they even exchanged tokens of love. However, Ange cannot remember any of it. Muki decides to shield Ange from the fact that someone has been poisoning him for a long time. Muki explains that the memory loss may be due to Ange's poor health. Ange does not think that this is the case. There's no way that he can easily forget his first love. He tells Muki that there must be something that happened and asks Muki to help him remember. He wants to know everything that happened. Muki promises to help Ange remember how they fell in love. This time, they will do it together. He can't afford to lose Ange again. Finally, that's how it should have been from the very beginning. I'm glad that they are finally communicating. Several days have passed since the zombie apocalypse. The day that Ange came back to life. Muki dresses him up in expensive traveling clothes. He wonders why Muki is taking him out of the palace. Muki explains that Ange must be feeling cooped up and decides that they go on a trip. He ties the love token he gave Ange to Ange's belt, admiring the dice with the red bean. Ange asks what he gave Muki as a love token. Muki touches his face and tells him that he received a strand of Ange's hair in return. Ange realized that the strand of hair he found belonged to him. Muki kisses his hair and teases him about the meaning of the gift. He's heard that women from Yuma give a strand of their hair as a love token in the hope that their hearts will intertwine. He teases that Ange must have loved him more during that time and does not want Muki to leave him. In his embarrassment, Ange tells him that he has so much hair and that giving away a lock of hair does not mean anything. He insists that Muki loves him more as he gives him a unique, exquisite dice that has his name on it. Muki laughs at him, which further aggravates Ange. Muki tells him he's right. Muki did like Ange more. Oh, he admits he likes him more. That would make any girl's heart melt. Ange stops their mini competition on who likes the other more and tells Muki that they should go. Muki watches Ange walk in front of him. He no longer cares if Ange remembers their shared past. He is content with what they have right now. Their mini excursion leads them to a tea house named Qianji Luo. It is said to be the most sought-after tea house in the capital. Ange asks him why they came here, to which Muki answers that they will be meeting someone soon. The two enter the tea house with their hands joined, Before Anga could ask who it is, he is shocked by the sight of a scantily dressed man greeting him. Dressed in a thin inner robe and holding a flask of alcohol, the man is exposing a scandalous amount of leg and smooth chest. The man greets Muki, asking him how he's doing. Anga cannot believe that he is seeing someone who's dressed so wantonly. The amount of legs being shown is too much for him, and it makes him blush. He can't believe that the man is not even wearing any pants. So it's just hanging there. The man teases Anga for staring too long. He asks Anga if he finds him attractive. Anga tries to deny it, but is too flustered to string two words together. Muki grabs Anga, shielding his innocent eyes from the lewd sight. He chastises the man for not dressing properly during the day and calls him rude. The other man complains that Muki has never bothered with his clothes in the many years they've known each other. The man teases that the man who came with Muki must be special. He introduces Anga to the other man, with instructions that Anga be treated like the crown prince himself. The man realizes that Anga does hold significant sway over the crown prince and bows an apology. Anga tells him that they do not need to be so formal. Muki warns him to not be deceived by the man's innocent look. He tells Anga that this guy is a weirdo who likes to eat men. I see what you mean. Fearing that the man is a cannibal, Anga sticks to Muki closer. The man grabs him, which scares Anga more. The man asks that he does not believe the crown prince. He tells Anga that he is a picky eater and does not eat people at random. Anga fears that the cannibal is onto him. No matter how he looks at it, eating another person is wrong. Bless his innocent soul. He really believes that the guy is a cannibal. The man breathes in Anga's scent and tells Anga that he is his type. A chill runs through Anga's spine, and he jumps away from the cannibal. Trembling in fear, he hides behind Muki, who pushes the cannibal off of him, keeping him away from Anga. Muki calls the other man by the name, Qian Huan. Qian Huan admits that he is only joking and asks Muki and Anga to not be angry at him. Anga does not find the man funny. Feeling uncomfortable, he excuses himself and tells Muki that he shall wait for him in the carriage. Fearing that the cannibal would chase him, Anga ran for his life, leaving Muki behind. Leaving home behind in a room with a cannibal is not the sweetest thing to do to your lover. After Anga left, Muki turns to Qian Huan to ask him what he thinks. Qian Huan tells him that based on Anga's pulse, coupled with his memory loss and his inclination to sleep a lot, many poisons have the same symptoms. However, finding a cure for these poisons is risky. If they don't find the correct ingredients, Anga's condition will turn for the worse, so this guy is some sort of epic antidote maker, who eats men on the side. Muki asks if there is another way. Qian Huan presents another solution. Instead of blindly guessing the poison used on Anga, they can lure the enemy into coming out and revealing which poison it is. Anga stays in the carriage, still trembling in fear. He learned from the Grand Tutor that there are tribes of cannibals. He never thought them to be true, but meeting one makes him shiver. Muki opens the curtain keeping the carriage's privacy and laughs at Anga. Anga is miffed that Muki is making fun of him. Muki pats his head, telling him that he wouldn't do such a thing. He promises Anga that no one can harm him when Muki is around. Anga blushes but lets Muki assure him. Muki tells him that he'll be able to free up his schedule and would like to take Anga back home to Yunlei. Anga cannot believe it and wonders what Muki plans to do. Muki suspects that the one behind Anga's poisoning is from the royal palace of Yunlei. That makes sense, as there will be very few people who have access to the emperor. He wants to drive the enemy out of hiding, but he fears that Anga would not want to go back with him once he returns home. He strengthens his heart to ask Anga, but is smitten by the smile Anga throws at him. In his excitement, he hugs Muki, happily thanking him for taking him home. Anga is always confused by what Muki wants, but this time, he will happily accept this gift. Infatuated, Muki looks at Anga. He lifts his chin up and then calls him stupid. Not a very nice thing to say. Lol. Behind the carriage curtains, two figures can be seen so close to each other that their shadows can be mistaken as one. When Muki finally gets his free time, he and Anga travel by boat to Yunlei. Anga is surprised that the emperor would allow Muki to travel like a commoner and wonders what strings Muki pulled to convince his father. Muki remembers his discussions with the emperor. The emperor pointed out that the relationship between Yunlei and Yi country has changed, and he fears an uprising. He tells the crown prince to protect himself from any risk and be wary of a possible attack. Muki assures his father that he prepared well for the trip and has accounted for any possible risks. The emperor knows that he cannot sway his stubborn son from his plans. However, he has a responsibility to his country, and if something happens to Muki, He has to appoint one of his siblings to replace him as crown prince. Muki decided not to tell Anga the full story. He tells Anga that his father needs to send someone to Yunlo to handle some political issues. As Muki plans to go anyway, he asks the emperor to let him. Anga is no fool. Anga knows that they should be careful. As crown prince, Muki should be wary of any risk outside of the imperial palace, especially when going to Yunla. He knows that asking the emperor to send his crown prince out incognito is not an easy thing. Anga clenches the cup of tea. He needs to recall his lost memory or he'll never deserve Muki's love. Their boat arrives at Jiangxia harbor, and Muki helps him alight the boat. Anga asks if they plan to go to the capital as the important officials will be there. Muki smiles at him, telling him that the officials can wait. On the side of the road, a peddler sells his toy figurine, shouting out to potential customers. Muki holds his hands as they stroll on the streets. He asks Anga if he remembers this place and tells him that this is where they first met. Anga looks around the place and thinks that the place is indeed familiar. The toy peddler calls to Anga, saying that he recognizes him. He asks Anga if he has come to pay for the toy he stole from him. Anga cannot believe his ears. There's no way that he would steal. The sight of toys staring at him brings back a memory from 3 years ago. Anga remembers walking along the streets of Jiangxia and seeing a man browsing the toys. He stands out among the citizens of Jiangxia with his extraordinary aura. The man is not much older than him, but his presence is very noticeable. The man turns to Anga, and Anga reels back at being caught staring at a stranger. The stranger is Muki. The man approaches him, making Anga step back until his back hits a wall. Teasing him, the man leans over him, asking why he's been staring. Anga denies that he's been staring at him. He tells the stranger that he was just looking at the toy figurines. Muki asks him if he can see the toys from where he's standing. Anga blushes and insists that he can indeed see the toys from where he is. He points at a toy black dragon, telling the stranger that he finds it pretty. The stranger agrees that the dragon is indeed exquisitely crafted and that he intends to buy it. However, he shall refrain from doing so if Anga likes it so much. Embarrassed, Anga admits that he does not have the money to buy it. Muki chuckles and tells Anga that he shall buy it for him. Anga beams at him in delight. Muki remarks that the boy is so naive that he's unable to hide his emotions. Reaching from inside his sleeves, he finally tells Anga that his wallet is missing. Lamenting his misfortune, Muki tells Anga that someone must have stolen his wallet. One of the guards watching Muki can't believe that they've been so lax as to allow someone to steal from their crown prince. Another guard tells him not to fall for the crown prince's antics, who has been teasing the boy. As the monarch of Yunlo, Anga felt that he had to apologize to this man on behalf of his people. Muki asks him if he's the one who stole his wallet. Anga denies it and tells Muki that he did not expect that there would be thieves in this town. Anga thinks to himself that he is at fault for not being a good enough ruler that his people felt they had to resort to stealing. Like the devil whispering to an angel's ear, Muki convinces him to steal a toy figurine. Anga tells him that there's no way he'd steal. Muki tries to reverse psychology on him and tells Anga that he should have known that Anga could not do it, as he looks like a man full of virtue. Anga tells him that he's never done it before and is worried about getting caught. Excitement runs through him at the thought of doing something illegal. What happened to your integrity, Anga? You're an emperor. You shouldn't be stealing. Muki is no better. Muki laughs at him and assures Anga that he won't be caught with Muki as his partner. They set out their plan. Muki approaches the peddler and asks if he can customize a toy figurine. Excited that he finally get a sale, the peddler asks Muki what he wants. While the peddler is distracted, Anga reaches for the black dragon. He successfully swiped the toy, but the top part fell down on the peddler's feet. A moment of silence engulfs them as the peddler realizes that someone is trying to steal from him. The peddler turns to Anga and angrily confronts him for stealing. Muki grabs Anga's wrist, dragging him away to safety. Back to the present, Anga reaches for Muki's sleeves. Muki turns to Anga, asking him what's wrong. Anga jumps to hug Muki, telling him that he wants to make a little black toy dragon. He cries at the possibility of gaining back the memory he's lost. It's great that Anga's gaining his memory. This trip will be good for Anga to remember the things that made him fall in love with Muki.